The sandwich heads are here. Who are they? What do they want? Welcome back, everyone. That's right. We're going to start it off with this retweet of Greg Zaj's meme with Homer Simpson sitting in the middle of the sandwich heads. Yeah, that's right. We are going to have to talk about the sandwiches. And here we go. We are going to talk about the sandwiches because this weekend you probably saw a lot of memes, right? Like Greg's. You probably also saw Walton's meme, right? With this weird little OpCat thing up here and the sandwich heads below. What does this all mean? What is OpCat? What are these sandwich heads? What are the Rubens? And Bitcoiners in our typical form. Yeah, that's right. We started to spread the sandwich heads. Shout out to Brian at @itme_brain, who has been making a lot of these sandwich heads, and they're popping up all over the place. It's pretty crazy, actually. It's one sandwich head after another. Anyways, what do these sandwich heads mean? Why are they here? That is the whole point of this clip. Let's dive into it because the truth of the matter is that this is a really fun take on something very serious that's going on in Bitcoin. So let's dive into it because all these sandwich heads are talking about Rubens. And for the people who don't know, Jeremy Rubin is a Bitcoin contributor. And back in 2022, he made a proposal for something called CTV, which we're going to dive into. And essentially, at that time when it happened, okay, there was a lot of concern around the speedy trial. That is what the impression was, that maybe there could have been some other things going on behind the scenes. Who knows? I'm just saying that was the public outroar against CTV. And so CTV, even though Jeremy did a lot of marketing, it didn't go over too well. And it just kind of died on the vine, so to speak. Anyways, let's dive into CTV and what these sandwich heads all mean. So CTV is actually BIP 119. Okay, so let's dive into it. Unpacking CTV and how it would change Bitcoin. Now, guys, this is an article from May 2022, but it was updated in 2023. So just to give people some perspective on that. So let's dive into what CTV is and how it can help us. And then, we're going to give our summary about this because, of course, I'm not just a cheerleader, right? Like I don't really, I don't understand all of the nuance. So I'm obviously going to have a little bit of a different perspective on this than just, hey, let's enable some features and, make Bitcoin great again. When you send a Bitcoin transaction currently, it goes a little something like this. You acquire an address from your recipient, you pick out which unspent transaction outputs or UTXOs, what the cool folks call coins, you want to send, and you sign a transaction with your private key that proves you authorized the spend. For special transactions that use Bitcoin's scripting mechanism, users can utilize a special field to encode instructions for what happens to the coins in that transaction. We can only use Bitcoin scripts to designate when or why a Bitcoin is spent. But what if you could use them to designate how a Bitcoin is spent? What if, for instance, we could tell a transaction to only spend a certain amount of Bitcoin or specify that a transaction can only send to a specific address? Enter op check template verify, or CTV for short. A proposed Bitcoin upgrade which would introduce new scripting logic for how a transaction can spend specific coins. This modularity could, among other things, improve wallet security because in the event of a hack, the attacker can only send the Bitcoin to an address that you control. Beyond security implications, CTV could also enable financial applications to be more easily deployed on Bitcoin. CTV could pave the way for payment pools and channel factories, Lightning Network applications that could be beneficial to custodians, exchanges, and Lightning service providers. These payment tools are off-chain, so they could also furnish users with better privacy. In the current Bitcoin locks, everything is limited to things like combination locks. With CTV, you get to do things with a little bit of statefulness, which allows you to say a little bit of what happens next. This statefulness means that coins with CTV-enabled rules have to have some record of how the coins are supposed to be spent. This record takes the form of a template, hence check template verify. With CTV, users can create a template that creates specific spending conditions for a coin. You can think of OpCTV like a friend who has a key for you, but will only sign the specific transactions you told them to sign for in advance. However, Bitcoin scripts can specify multiple alternatives, so it's possible to generate an address that says either signature with key or transaction matching template or transaction matching template 2, which makes what you can do with CTV more flexible than just one particular transaction. And indeed, what this adds is essentially it adds more transaction complexity. And what it does for people who understand like a bit of a different programming logic at a higher level, like essentially it becomes an event-driven type of transaction. So if A takes place, then B occurs, or you can have if A takes place, then do B and C, which could then trigger other actions. It's actually pretty interesting. Anyways, less geeky than we think. I don't know, maybe. Who knows? Okay, either way, users could create covenants that specify, for example, the coins in their vault could only be sent to a specific address, or that they can only spend 0.0025 BTC at a time. These are just a couple of examples that could help in the event of an attack. CTV would give the Lightning Network new functionality as well, giving users the ability to create payment pools and channel factories, where thousands of users can lock up funds that are represented by a single UTXO in a single on-chain transaction. Exchanges, custodians, and mining pools could use these channel factories to pay out thousands of users on-chain with a single UTXO in brackets coin, a scaling win that reduces the block space all of these transactions would otherwise use. And users can exit the channels whenever they want without requiring signatures from both parties. For Ruben, it's a matter of giving people improved tools, particularly privacy tools, especially those who live under stringent financial surveillance and control. Imagine a future where people are targeted for having Bitcoin because we did not have sufficient privacy, Ruben said. That worries me a lot. A lot of the benefit of payment pools is not just in scalability, but in privacy too, because they keep data off chain. For CTV proponents, the code is more or less vetted. There's been a 5.5 BTC bounty on CTV for nearly 6 months. Now, keep in mind, this article is from 2022, just to give people a frame of reference. So the bounty has been ongoing. Anyways, and the arguments against it seem to be we need more time to evaluate alternatives. Here's a tweet from Brian Trolls. And this is April 30th, 2022. Okay, so for the people that think that these discussions aren't happening, they are. Okay, it's just the reality is that if we don't see enough noise, people don't know or don't pay attention. But all of these discussions are constantly happening. Like with Taproot, the Taproot discussion was going on well over a year before people started hearing about it on Twitter. And yet people are sitting there and going, why didn't we know about this stuff? Yeah, I mean, like, look, not everybody's going to throw a frickin' sign up in your face. Anyways, I have yet to see a legitimate counter argument or criticism of BIP 119 other than something better can be done. The alternative that we've seen to CTV, okay, has been this APO or any previous output or any prev output or BIP 118. Another soft fork, this is designed by Blockstream, Core Lightning developer Christian Decker. Others, including Ruben and Decker, see each other's BIPs as complementary. Okay, so that's interesting, right? They see each other's BIPs as complementary, but if you've been paying attention to what's going on Bitcoin Twitter, it doesn't seem like these people see it as not them, but it doesn't seem like the different supporters see it as complementary. Anyways, that's always been my position. They are very much complementary. They have some overlap, but they are not exact ways to achieve the same end, and they were proposed in different contexts. I never had the impression that they were competitors, said Christian Decker. We're gonna finish it off with a tweet here. This is from 2021. Okay, so it just gives you an idea of how long Jeremy's already been working on this stuff. Anyways, worth clarifying, I don't give a single fuck if BIP 119 CTV specifically is activated or not. I want the functionality in whatever form, example, no input, to fix critical gaps in Bitcoin's armor: decentralization, scaling, self-custody, privacy. Let's fucking go. That's a Taproot wizard. Just pointing that out there. Anyways, let's clarify some things up first. There is no sandwich NFT, okay? Nobody paid to make these JPEGs. Nobody is paying for them. Okay, so if somebody is trying to grift you into paying for a sandwich head JPEG, they're scamming. Okay, that's plain and simple. Like they're just scamming you. Nobody is paying for this stuff. It's not an NFT. It's not an NFT collection or any of that. Now, okay, now, why are the sandwich heads in existence? Okay, and this is very simple. So the Taproot people decided to, I guess, co-opt or take the wizard emoji and turn it into the symbol for their quote unquote movement, right? The Taproot Wizards. Okay. And then we have this other BIP, this opcat BIP, which essentially is it's essentially what it's doing is it's concatenating data. Okay. And from what I understood, the one of the things that it may enable is drive chains, which is what Paul Stork was pushing for. Anyways, so their little logo emoji thing is their character is the cat, right? So it's very typical shitcoiner marketing to a certain extent, right? It is. This is what the shitcoiners do. If you take a look in Ethereum land, everything looks like ponies and cartoons and all of this garbage. And sadly, as humans, we are somehow drawn in by this kind of stupidity. And as a result, we've got the Rubens, right? This is essentially these are the sandwiches which represent, right? Which represent CTV, okay? For Jeremy Rubin. Anyways, now many of us have these sandwich head emojis, okay? Or I should say PFPs. Many of us have these because it's just fun. Like personally, I don't necessarily support CTV, but it also doesn't really make a difference what I support. I don't write code. Okay, so I mean, I'm here from the back seat, and I'm trying to understand what the benefits are going to be for those of us out in the wild. Now, the other piece to it is this. Okay, in every one of these situations, we have unknown unknowns. Okay, and I know that that's corny, but it's true. Okay, so every time, like I remember when Taproot when Taproot was being discussed, okay, all I ever heard was all of the amazing things that it's going to enable, all the great things that we're going to have. Nobody was talking about what we ended up seeing. Nobody was talking about all of this stupidity with the with the wizards and the inscriptions and ordinals. And I know everybody's gonna be like, oh, well, you were able to do that on Bitcoin before. Yes, you were, but Taproot made it a little bit fucking cheaper. Okay, deal with it. Sorry, it made it simpler. That's not my fault. That's just the way it works. Okay, and if it was something that was so easy to do before, the Taproot lizards would have already figured it out. So yeah, it was facilitated by Taproot, whether or not you want to agree with it. Okay. But so my point is that we are going to have unknown unknowns with CTV. There are going to be unknown unknowns with APO. Okay. Now, what we've seen is just a whole bunch of arguing online, which is, par for the course. But I just don't want people to think, number one, that this is like some type of NFT bullshit. We're not minting anything on the fucking blockchain. Okay. Like we're not putting anything there for these stupid sandwiches. These are just JPEGs. We're having fun. Okay, like that's what it is. And at the same time, we're also trying to draw awareness, right, to CTV. Anyways, these are the meme wars that go on Bitcoin Twitter. It's definitely lots of fun. I know that it can seem very confusing, and it is confusing. It's also confusing for me, but that to me is also part of the fun, right? Part of the fun is learning about all of this stuff. All right, guys, that wraps up the clip for today. Let me know what you think. Put it in the comments. I am going to catch you all tomorrow.